Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back to another edition of Jake's Takes. I am your host, Jake Masucci, and we are back. We are back, and I'm super excited to be back. It's been a while, it's been a couple months, and I feel rejuvenated. I feel ready to go. We're on Christmas break. The semester is finally over, and I've been waiting for this because I've been waiting to get back to Jake's Takes. So I'm super excited for this episode. I'm excited to bring on Asher Smith. We're going to talk all things college basketball. Really going to jump around a lot. I'm super excited for it. And yeah, so without further ado, I'm going to cue the music. All right, welcome back into the show, and I am super excited to be joined by my guy, Asher Smith. Super excited for this episode. College basketball is back. It's been raring to go, and I'm super excited to talk to Asher about it. So, Asher, how we doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad I see Jake's Takes back on the airwaves. I'm excited to chat some college hoops. I've been watching as much as I can and can't wait to start talking about it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's just get right into it. It's been a crazy year to start. So many twists and turns, and you think one team's like the team, and then out of nowhere somebody comes out and shocks you. So it's been exciting. So I wanted to ask you, what stood out to you throughout the year, just to get going.
Yeah, I think the fan level this year has been pretty incredible. I feel like the coaches have specifically scheduled games this year where they obviously want their team to be challenged, but they know that the fans are going to want to tune in. We've seen, I think, more cross Power 4, Power 5 basketball games in November than I remember seeing. And that's
Yeah.
even outside of Thanksgiving, tournaments. This is just standalone, sometimes true home, true away games that, obviously the coaches and players want to be in those games to prepare for March, but the fans really want to see those games because when you launch into college basketball, like there's no better feeling than being reminded like what it's like to beat a huge team like a Kentucky on the road
Mm,
by 2 points. And that's exactly what, Louisville set out to do at the beginning of the year. And they
yeah.
had that. And like there's just certain like team aspects that I think you just associate with March, which is why this sport is so great. And maybe unlike football, you're able to kind of control that feeling all year round. And we saw some of that in November. We saw some of that already in December. And I know that we're going to see it through conference play. So honestly, credit to the coaches, but credit to like just the college landscape promoting them to schedule these tough, challenging games without it really, deteriorating for the rest of their season, right? You don't need to schedule, quote unquote, cupcake or, schedule or scrimmage games, right?
Hmm.
You can actually go and play the best of the best. And it's going to make your resume better. And I really like that. We've been able to see that so far. It's led to some very exciting games.
Yeah. The month of November, man, like it was just nuts. You turn on your TV and I'd be like, oh, it's Saturday. I should be watching college football. And then there's like 5 ranked games. And I'm like, all right, we got to watch some basketball in here. Like we got to get the second TV out. We got to get everything going. I mean, it was some unbelievable games. And then the talent level, like we talked about it off air a little bit, but the freshman class coming into this, holy cow. I mean, it felt like, okay, I'm watching Louisville. Michael Brown drops 33 points on Kentucky. I'm like, whoa, like this guy's unbelievable. And then you go over and watch North Carolina and Caleb Wilson's just dunking everything. We watched Michigan State versus North Carolina. That was a show at the beginning of the game. You're like, man, oh my gosh. And then that's not even getting to the top 3, which is Dubanza, Cameron Boozer, and Darren Peterson, who have all like stood out. Peterson sadly dealing with some injuries, but like when he played was a stud, So I mean the freshman class has been crazy, and that just goes to show you like we're getting to see these guys play in the big stage, which is awesome. That's just what you want. And it's super cool to see. I agree with you completely.
That's right. If you only get one season of a freshman to, make an impact on a university, on a team, you're going to want to get them big games as soon as you can. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you wait till February, it just might be too late. And then they're going to be maybe needed down the stretch or just have a couple big time opportunities that the rest of their NBA career is going to have. And if you don't see enough of those in college, you're going to fall short. So these coaches are putting these freshmen in what you and I think is one of the deepest freshman, classes in a long time, in
Mhm.
terms of maybe not like even heavy hitter focus, but just like 1 to 50, like very impactful freshmen. They're putting them in very meaningful moments, and that's going to show when we start playing conference basketball because that's usually when the younger kids start to fade is when you start getting beat up within your own conference, and that's where
Yep.
maybe the elder statesmen definitely need to like lead. I think we're going to see
Mhm.
a lot more freshmen leading this year, which is awesome. And I also think that it's pretty, meaningful when freshmen get minutes on these teams because people might still associate college basketball with one and done and especially with NIL is paying your way for these best players to come there. At the same time, players are staying at universities longer than they have in the past 10 years. People are coming back to college and foregoing NBA opportunities to stay and develop and obviously make money, but to experience the full college developmental cycle. So if you're a
Mhm.
freshman, you want minutes, you're going against, guys that have been there for 4 or 5, sometimes 6 years, and they're not trying to give up their playing time to a freshman. So if a coach is putting you in, you know that you're pretty talented. And if you get to that work early, that's that's how you build a roster for, like we've seen the past 5 years. That's how you build a roster that's going to win 6 games in March. Is you get the freshmen gelling with the seniors. So we already saw that in a couple of awesome games this year.
Yeah, no, it's been absolutely wild, and, we also talked about off air, like, I've been doing my big board, and literally, like, when you're looking at it NBA draft-wise, I've evaluated over 20 freshmen because of, like like, how stacked it is, you know? It's absolutely crazy, I've
Totally.
never seen anything like it, it's unreal.
Absolutely. No, usually you're seeing it in a good way, riddled with, guys from overseas on that NBA draft board. But honestly, those guys are playing in college, right? You're seeing the
Mhm.
best come to play in college, and that means that the first round draft board looks like a March Madness slate, and that's pretty
Yeah.
cool to see. I feel like that's what we saw, back 10, 12 years ago when it ran through, the Big Ten and the SEC and the ACC, and now it's like these kids are coming from all over the world to play at any college that'll have them, and it just creating such a larger pool of great teams and great players.
Yeah. No, it's been awesome to watch. I mean, there's just so much talent around around college basketball. It's felt like it's been missing a little bit, like you were saying, but NIL's definitely brought it back, which is some exciting stuff. So let's switch into talking about some of these teams through the conferences. I wanted to center on the Big Ten today because me and you are both Big Ten guys, and your team looks like the best team we have seen in a long time. It is flat out unbelievable. Dusty May has got those guys rolling. We were excited about the hire when it happened. We talked about Michigan a lot last year, and now they just look unbelievable. I have never seen anything like what they did in that Players Era tournament, winning every game by over 30 points. And it's just ridiculous what they were doing. So what we said was we were going to tier the Big Ten. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I have them in tier one by themselves. What do you have, Michigan?
I definitely have them tier one, and I think
Okay.
you said it best. It shows what you can do when you get the head coaching hire correct, right? And
Hmm.
that's something that I think they emphasize in football a lot, but it's just as true in basketball. There's going to be great head coaches every single year coming from mid majors, coming from maybe lower power four teams that can make an immediate impact. And that's what Dusty May did. I know last year when we talked about Michigan, we probably wouldn't put them in tier one, but they did, finish in the top three of the Big Ten, at least through February, with I believe, a couple of weeks at number one in a very deep Big Ten conference with Danny Wolf and Vlad. That we were seeing like, hey, this team might have something. We don't know. We've never seen them in action before, but they might have something. And then they went to the Sweet 16. Now
Yep.
we're seeing that again this year with a brand new roster, but same mentality, right? You're seeing a lot of action from the big men, taking that pressure off the point guard, relying on the point guard to not turn the ball over, make some big time shots, but really just distribute it to guys that let's say Morez Johnson and Adi Mara and obviously Yaxel Landenberg, you're not going to
Hmm.
walk out of the gym with them having less than 15 chances at scoring, right? And that's a lot of, facilitations
Yep.
per possession. If you're trying to get a, let's call it an 80 possession game minimum, like that's a lot of time that you got to distribute the ball. So again, he built that same model that he did last year, upgraded the players, whether that was NIL or them they're seeing, hey, I can go to Michigan and develop here. I'm not sure. But he clearly took what worked last year that we were maybe a little more skeptical about, but excited. And this year really mastered it. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing guys that play the positions the way Dusty May sees them being played, sees
Hmm.
them working in his mind. And now you're adding the NBA skill ability of a Yaxel Landenberg, a playmaking ability. You're adding the rim defense of an Adi Mara. You're adding the distribution of North Carolina main point guard Ellie Godot, right? You're
Mhm.
adding some different talent that you might have been missing last year. And it's really paying dividends this year because you're getting a lot more points per possession and your defensive rating is skyrocketing. So I'm
Yes.
super excited. I would definitely put them in tier one. I could probably case a couple to join them, but I'm excited to see kind of how you tier out that next tier because that's where I think it's really exciting because Michigan will have as many as many slow weeks as they do hot streaks. So who's
Mhm.
that team that's going to unseat them maybe in the Big Ten or the Big Ten tournament? I'm excited to see who you're high on in the Big Ten.
Yeah, looking at Michigan a little bit more, like, we played them first game of the season, and, like, I was looking at them and I'm like, "They're super big, they're super long, they can defend, they can do all these things." My question was, will they be able to shoot the ball? Like, because that was the question. It was the shooting and the turnovers. It's always been that with Michigan, and they've just been shooting the lights out, dude, and it leads to how they play, which is transition. Like, they're one of the fastest teams in, college basketball. I believe I have the stat right here where they're, like, the 4th fastest team in pace, which is just ridiculous? And, I thought it was interesting, especially watching them early in the year. There was just multiple games where they struggled, like TCU, and then there's another game I'm missing in there, but, it was a lot to do with some of their lineups and, like, how big they played, running those 3 bigs. Like, Yaxel really struggled to kind of fit into his role, and I mean, the first game, Yaxel didn't do anything against us. It was Mara blocking shots at the rim, Morez Johnson looking like a stud, and Trey McKinney went off with threes against us. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, when they play these big schools, how is Yaxel going to fare? And then the players era started, and Yaxel looked like a stud and found his way to get into the right positions. Like, I thought it was really interesting how they were able to shift that and get Yaxel to really focus on a more aggressive nature. I was We were actually playing in Montana during that stretch. So, talk to me about what you saw for Michigan in players era and some of the things that you're thinking will help them going into Big Ten play.
Yeah, I think that the players era was huge in their development and confidence as a team. I think what the players era is doing is actually great. Some people had some criticism for it because it's not a classic, November Thanksgiving tournament style. I think it's
Hmm.
bringing the best teams together and putting them in just a scenario where they wouldn't play each other normally, right? It's not a quote unquote win and go to this bracket, lose and go to this. It's a round robin tournament, right? You're playing for cash, you're playing for something, but you're going to get the best of the best going at it. And that's what Michigan saw. And credit to Oakland zone, obviously, that's going to throw anybody, especially for a half in terms of shooting. And I would agree with you. I don't think Michigan was necessarily a top tier shooting team coming into the season. They were going to win on pace and
Yep.
defense, right? But I
Hmm.
think what we're seeing here is that their pace and defense is leading to offensive opportunity. And that really showed in the players era. Because if
Yeah.
you were able to string enough stops together in a row that lead to layups, that gives confidence to your shooters, which is crazy to say. But putting a shooter in a spot where you haven't scored in 10 possessions, it's going to be, looking a little funny coming off of the hand. But if you see a couple go through the rim on the easy shots, right? A couple down low baskets go for you, it's going to open up the floor a whole lot and get those shooters in rhythm. And that's what you saw with Yaxel. I think that's what he was honestly missing at a UAB, which is why scouts told him to come back, is that on a Michigan, while he's clearly the most talented player, he can be one of 5 scorers on the floor. And while you're going to want to get him the ball as much as possible, he really finds the spot in the zone on defense or maybe the matchup in man to man that gets him the best look. Whereas at UAB, he's probably going to see a little bit more double teams than he would at a Michigan, right? So the fact that you have to cover 2 other bigs or maybe 2 other very intense wings, I would call them, like Kaysen and like a McKinney, who are going to be running the entire time, it gives Yaxel so many more opportunities to showcase his one-on-one ability, which, as we're
Hmm.
seeing, is NBA first round level. And so I
Yeah.
think the players era, different than like an Oakland or maybe a scrimmage where you're testing out different defenses, right? You're seeing some stuff that clearly like they're going to have to maybe pack it in a little bit more. When you saw finally a spread out court against 5 equal defenders, you were able
Hmm.
to clearly see, hey, this guy's better than whoever's guarding him. Let's get him opportunities to go to work. And then that confidence just kept building. He's taking now threes in transition, right? He's finding different spots to take pop up threes. And obviously, he's running the pick and roll as the ball handler. Like that confidence is definitely big because if that was going to be shot from a couple tough road games to start the year, you're probably going to see maybe the offense run a little bit more through Godot, which I don't think is what Dusty May wants. So the players era was huge as a confidence booster, and I think opens up their offense for the rest of the Big Ten season.
Yeah, no, I mean, Michigan's been awesome throughout, and they got a stretch here where they probably won't lose for a while. I believe the next ranked team they play is January 29th, if I got that right. But they really got a stretch here where it's pretty light. I believe that's Michigan and Arizona, two top teams that everybody's struggling with. So I think they'll be at the top of the rankings for a little while. But
I think you're right.
let's switch into some of those other teams. You said that you probably would put a different team in tier one. Who would you put in tier one as well?
Yeah, so it's obviously a team that I think we talked about mostly last year, and so that maybe the expectations are down coming off of a couple of great seasons, but I would absolutely put Purdue in
Okay.
tier one. I
Love it.
think again, it's to me obviously I'm huge on guard play, and I know that
Mhm.
Michigan might not even emphasize that as much, and Arizona as well. It's like, look at these amazing freshmen and transfers on the wings, right? But when the best player in the country is a guard at Purdue, you know I'm going to hang my hat on that
Yeah.
guy in March, right? And
Mhm.
that's Braden Smith. And what Braden Smith showed last year and this year is that he can score the ball pretty effectively whenever he wants to. Sometimes he might overpass, people are saying, right? So watching him in the first couple games, even navigating a loss, I think that he's clearly got command of the court. He's using the new players that have quote unquote replaced Zach Edey, right? They have some height now finally, and they have guys that played a lot last year that are getting a second chance at it again this year. I don't think that they're necessarily going to match up with Michigan if they can score 100 plus, but I think that what Braden Smith as a senior guard, as well as his other talented floor members can do, is that they can contain Michigan. They can slow
Yeah.
them down, right? If you get them, especially on Purdue's court, you might see Michigan on an off shooting night or not be able to handle dishes to Mara as well because guess what? Purdue has a 7'3" guy as well, right? So I think that they
Mhm.
match up a little bit better and they're just more weathered for a Big Ten season than Michigan is. That was like my one, I think, worry with Dusty May was that he's a great coach and honestly probably a great March Madness coach compared to other Big Ten coaches, but he's not a
Mhm.
Big Ten guy, at least not yet, right? And I
Yeah.
think that will come. He's from Indiana. He worked at Indiana. Like clearly he knows this, but when his guys went to Michigan State, when his guys went to Ohio State, it looked like any other game, right? And that
Mhm.
rivalry is when you got to rise up, and that's when they got beat a couple times. So I think Purdue has that edge on Michigan and might for a while until some of these freshmen like McKinney start getting into the ranks. But I think that's why those two would be 1 and 2 for me. As in, I could see either winning on any night, neutral court. I could see either one having their way because it's just about whose pace wins the game. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like that. I think Purdue losing that Iowa State game really, like, it shocked me because
for sure.
that doesn't happen in Mackey. Having us played in that place this year, it is probably the loudest Big Ten environment I've been in. Like, it is flat out unbelievable. Um, just how loud it was. Like, I think Campy said it after the game. Brody Robinson was at the line and we were down like 2 points. And he hit the first free throw. And then before this, like the crowd was upset about the foul. And before the second free throw, like everybody was just like screaming. And like after the free throw went in, my ears were ringing for like a minute. And I was like, holy crap, this is insane. And Campy said it afterwards. He was like, that's the loudest environment I've ever been in. And he's
Yeah,
been in there 40 years. So
it's special.
yeah,
They
it's
put a lot into
crazy.
it.
Yeah, it's crazy. So that's why like losing by 30 to Iowa State, maybe Iowa State's that legit. I mean, I didn't watch that game. So but I mean,
That's definitely what I took away from it. I feel like it's definitely a new Iowa State, but at the
yeah.
same time, you and I have been on this podcast 2 years in a row talking about how about this Iowa State team? Like I really
Yeah,
like this Iowa State.
exactly.
Like they have that ability,
Yeah.
and that's as much as they claim to be Big 12, they're a Big 10 team.
Yeah.
Those are the environments they play in.
Mhm.
So while it was shocking, I would have expected a loss by like 15, right? While the loss they had was shocking, I
Yeah.
think that's more classic Ohio State than it is impacting Purdue's chance to win the Big Ten and still get a 1 seed if possible.
I like that. I like that. I think the reason why I have them tier 2 is big man thing, big man play. Um, their defensive rebounding scares me. Like, it
Hmm.
is a legitimate problem. We were able to really get a lot of offensive rebounds on them, And yes, they didn't have Kaufman run against us, but even when Kaufman runs in, they do have a problem with that. I think Clough's a little bit better getting them defensive rebounds than they had last year. And Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith are a year older. Braden Smith is amazing, unbelievable. And Fletcher Lawyer is actually scoring at a higher clip this year. You know, he's shooting it really well. And then Kaufman Ren just adds an element where it's like, okay, we got nothing going. Go get us a bucket with 5 seconds left on the shot clock, which makes them, to me, a clear two in the Big Ten, like you're saying. But I think the questions for me is defensive rebounding. And there's a lot of teams that are very good offensive rebounding teams. Illinois is a really good offensive rebounding team. Mirkovic is a stud offensive rebounder. And then you got Nebraska, who's playing great. They're able to get offensive rebounds. And Michigan State, I feel like that's a great matchup for State. They're an
Yeah,
unbelievable rebounding team, and I think they could really exploit that from Purdue. And you're looking at Michigan too. You got three bigs there. Like, you sure you're going to be able to box them out? Michigan likes to push the tempo. Purdue likes to push the tempo too, but I mean, like, if you're looking at fast break game, I think I'd rather have Michigan's. Like,
right.
Michigan plays at a faster pace. And even though I trust Braden Smith more than other people, I think it could hurt in Big Ten play. I love them in the tournament, though,
Got it.
because at the end of the game, I trust Braden Smith. And I trust some of their role players too. Like, I like Jack Benter, who comes off the bench, stud shooter. Omer Meyer is a fantastic guard from overseas. They got guys that work. I like Liam Murphy off their bench too. They got guys that work, but I'm a little nervous about Big Ten play. But knowing Matt Painter, they're definitely going to figure it out.
Definitely see your point. That is the reason that they will be tier two the entire season, right? Is if they are
Yeah,
matching up with those teams you just mentioned. If they're getting beat on the rebounds, it's going to be a tough game. It's can Braden Smith play as a guard? Can his maybe assist to turnover ratio override the offensive rebounds you give up, right?
yes.
Can he save as many possessions as you're losing? And like you
Hmm.
said, in Big Ten, that could be pretty hard. So they do have some things to figure out. I have confidence that, a couple of those big guys you mentioned will have some better end of season strategy, but agree it could be more of a March move for them than a Big Ten February.
For sure. Let's switch into, I believe we're on your tier two. So talk to me about your two tier two teams.
Yeah, so I feel like you mentioned a bunch of them, and it's funny because usually I'm like Purdue. I definitely have emphasis on the guards, but this year, like you said, the big man matchup is definitely intriguing to me.
Yeah.
As in, who can guard Michigan's big men, or in the past, who has been able to guard Purdue's big men, right? So Michigan State clearly, in my mind,
Yeah.
favorites of the big man play because their defense is so great, right? Their guards and bigs play defense together so well that when you can have two or three, 6'10" people on the court, you're able to take away maybe Michigan's underlying asset, which is their height, right, and their length.
Hmm.
So having guys that can match up with Michigan's big men, Michigan State has that plus defensive guards. So I think that they can maybe put the post up in a little bit more of a panic with their doubles, and they can, with their switches, maybe guard a big man pick and roll, right? So I think Michigan State defensively is in my tier two. The reason they're tier two and not tier one is their offense, right? I think they'll figure out their shooting with their transfers, but that clearly needs to get better.
Yeah.
Nebraska, I have is in tier two. I'm still maybe a little more questionable about them. I think it's
Okay.
definitely what Hoiberg's been building. I think that he's got a great offense and they, run an interesting style of basketball at Nebraska, but I'm not convinced until I see it on the court from them, just because I could see them dropping games to teams that are maybe in that tier three or even tier four on a hot night versus Michigan. You saw what they did against Maryland. Like, even on that hot night, they're not going to
Hmm.
drop out or drop a game on the road. That's just where I see the difference between Nebraska and Michigan. And then lastly, for me, I think my best team in tier two is Illinois.
Okay.
I think
I
that
like it.
they don't have everything figured out, which some
Hmm.
might think is a negative. I think it's scary, right? I think the
Yeah.
fact that he doesn't know who his lineups are yet is a scary thing for the rest of the Big Ten, because once he figures it out, I think that they're going to be tremendous. I think Stojakovic is low key, in my mind, the Big Ten Player of the Year, but he's just on
Wow.
the wrong
Like
team to
it.
do it. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Because he's in a team that you have to spread the wealth, and as he should. But his skill level is so incredible that I think that if they get into a maybe late game situation, kind of like a Braden Smith, you could lean on him to drive to the basket and get you 2 points, and that's what you need in the Big Ten, because it's always going to come down to the last shot in the Big Ten, especially with these top 16. So I'd say
Yeah.
that's probably my top. Purdue, obviously, I think I'd put him one. Next would be Illinois, and then Michigan State, Nebraska would round out probably my tier two. Um, couple that I could see sneaking into it, but I think those are probably like who I would put in tier two right now.
I like that. My tier 2 consists of Michigan State and Purdue, and
Okay,
those would be my tier 2, and then I put Illinois and Nebraska in tier 3.
got it.
Talking about Michigan State a little bit, I just wanna give them their flowers. Like, we are
Yeah.
talking about the matchups here. They're another team that can really run the fast break. Like, those
Hmm.
big men are always right down the floor, like, every time, and they're so great at sealing inside. Like, they just find the guy in transition, automatic seal can lead to either them getting it from the seal or like Fears going around, getting a layup off of it. It's just really impressive. And Fears, like, how about Jeremy Fears? 9 assists per game. Unbelievable. He's been a stud for them. And then Cam Ward, freshman, coming out of nowhere. He started out the year with a bang and hasn't played great lately, but still is a great role player for them. Divine is another guy that's a great shooter for them. He's really shot the ball really well in their last 2 games. And Carson Cooper's been solid. He's doing his role well. He rebounds well. That's kind of all they really need him to do. And then Cohen Carr is a highlight reel. Like we've known that forever, just unbelievable there. And the guy that gets no flowers that probably should be in Big Ten Player of the Year discussions is Jackson Cole. He is like on fire right now. Double double. That's what he's averaging. He's shooting 50, 40, 90, 47% from three. Like that's ridiculous, you know?
Yep.
He's been a stud throughout the whole year. Michigan State deserves a ton of flowers. I didn't expect them from them this year. I really didn't. Like they figured out like everybody's role and they're near the top again. Like credit to Tom Izzo. Like unbelievable job with this team. And looking at it, I feel like they match up the best with Purdue or Michigan. Compared to these other three teams. And I love Illinois' talent. Like doing that draft board, I put like 6 of Illinois guys on the draft board, and I was like having so much fun watching them play. But if I'm going down in March and Big Ten play and I want to trust somebody, it's probably Michigan State. So out of those three teams, did you say you liked Illinois the best?
I think I would like Illinois the best currently.
Okay.
I It's funny because they definitely, yeah, I would could see why they're tier two or three because honestly, I like the matchups with
Yeah,
a clearly a Duke or a Michigan, maybe favoring Duke or Michigan, but the team I would not want to play the most is probably Illinois. And it's
I
just
like
because of
that.
their scoring ability. I think
Hmm.
Michigan State is clearly everyone's nightmare come March because for some reason Tom Izzo always figures it out, right?
Yeah,
But what you like you said, we got to give Tom Izzo credit for is that they were the best team in the Big Ten last year when people didn't expect them to be as good. And then they lost their two best scorers, and they come back
yeah,
this year and they have a point guard averaging 9 assists with no one who can shoot. Right? Like
yeah,
clearly, people are making shots if he's averaging 9 assists. So they'll figure it out. I think it's going to unfortunately have to come from freshmen and transfers because I don't think Fears is going to learn how to shoot in 3 months. But when he's passing the way he is and Kohler's scoring, you just need someone else to step up. So credit to Michigan State, but their scoring isn't there right now. Illinois is. And even though
yeah.
they look off on some nights, the fact that they have guys who can make threes and stretch the floor, and they have Stojakovic, who's a ball handling scorer, I think I would put them ahead of a Michigan State in terms of tier rankings in the Big Ten right now.
Which is fair. Like, if we're deep diving Illinois here, we talked about Boswell on this show for a long time. He's been one of my favorites, and
Yeah.
he's taken a big jump. Like,
Yes.
the scouting report on him last year was if if you if you're guarding him, you close short because he's not going to beat you with the jumper. Now, if you go under on the screen and roll, he is hitting that three like every time and it's a problem. It is a problem. Yeah, you got to watch Illinois in person, correct? Yeah,
That's right. Got to see Illinois and Alabama at the United Center. And
yeah,
yes, Boswell clearly much different than he was last year. Could be the weapons around him, but I feel
hmm
like it was raining threes that night in Chicago. Could also be that Alabama takes out 93s a game, but I feel like both teams love
Talk
putting it
about
up.
fast
And it was
pace,
so
right?
talk about fast pace. Holy cow. Um, Illinois lost that game. They've lost a couple tough ones, but
hmm
give them credit for how they held with Alabama. They were in it till the last shot. Like Alabama is going to be a great team again this year, and always a tough matchup. They're a unique team, right? Bottom, bottom teams, right? Lost my AirPod. they're like 60th in defense, but one in
Mhm.
offense, right? Like that's a weird matchup.
Yeah.
That's like a Syracuse zone. You're never
Yeah.
going to run into that. And they held with them, right? On a short rest, on a short scout. That's what you need in March. So credit to
Mhm.
Illinois. I think that they're showed a lot more than their losses than people might think.
Yeah, there's so much I wanna get to, but with Illinois, but we gotta keep going. So, I wanna ask you about Nebraska a little bit because they're one team I haven't watched a crazy amount. So, what have you seen from Nebraska? Why would you put them tier 2? Because I just have them tier 3. Like you said, Hoiberg, like, he's built this, they're undefeated. They weren't like this last year, so I'm just trying to figure out if they're real.
Yeah, totally. I mean, Nebraska probably one of the only top tier, maybe top 4 tier Big Ten teams without a preseason All Big Ten selection. Like it's not like
Mhm.
there's someone that you're throwing on their big board, right? Like it's definitely a Hoiberg vision of a team, which I think is what excites me. Like obviously you can point to their schedule as a reason that they have the record they do. But at the same time, this is Nebraska that's had a similar schedule the last 5 years, right? And has a much different record. So
Yeah.
they may be a little different than Michigan, Purdue, Michigan State, where they have individual guys that can take over and win a game. The fact that they can win this many games as a team shows me that they'll be able to compete in a Big Ten season that, like we'll get to, is full of teams that are beatable, right? Like the Big Ten has a lot of holes. And it doesn't mean that they're going to be a weak conference, right? It just means that if you're middle tier on the Big Ten, you're going to have a lot of chances to win because with an 18 team conference, it's very deep, right? So can Nebraska go to a Washington, right, and get a win? Go to a UCLA, who's very good, and get a win? I think what they've shown this year is a team ability to close out a game that we haven't seen in the past. I think that they have been the team that might give you a scare the first half but really has never had the ability to close out. And I
Mhm.
would honestly credit that mostly to Hoiberg. But again, I think their guard play has just increased. Their turnovers have gone down from last year, right? They're outscoring what they did last year. Um, we saw like maybe hints of it in certain games, but I remember going to Nebraska. They have one of the best home basketball environments that people don't know about just because in that area, people like love and die for Nebraska because that's their pro team, right? So if
Yeah.
you get a team that has a win streak like this, all of a sudden their home atmosphere becomes so much more damaging to teams that might be on short rest or might be in different time zones coming to play them, right? So it's more
Mhm.
about the opportunity for me with Nebraska, not necessarily I think they can get to tier one because I don't. I just think they can win enough to get a bye come the Big Ten, which we've never seen from them before. And then that's when they can get dangerous because, like a lot of March upset teams, right? It's just about building a group that's been together for a while and knows how to play for that coach versus a bunch of transfers, right? And I think that
Yeah.
Nebraska has combined that to become a pretty dangerous team.
Yeah. Looking at those 2 guards you were talking about, I think the names are, 51 Rick Mast and then, 21 Price Sanford.
Yes,
Those will be
Sanford,
guys, yeah, those will be guys to watch, for sure. I'm excited to watch more of them because they're a
for
team I
sure.
haven't gotten to, too much. So let's close out the Big Ten. I wanna go through. We'll put tier 3 and tier 4 together so we can, close
Yeah.
it out a little bit. But if there's one team that stands out to you from those tiers that could make their way into tier 2, could make their way into tier 1, could shock everybody, who is the team you're picking? And then I'll pick a team after you.
Yeah, I think, like you said, there's no real clear tier 3 and 4 right now.
Yep.
I'd say like we talked about earlier, the 0-2 teams are going to have a tough hole to climb out of. Obviously, Oregon, Northwestern, we've seen be successful, so wouldn't count them out. But I think that besides those teams, a lot of teams could surprise me and be a tier 4 the whole year, and a lot of teams could surprise me and jump to a tier 2. So, very hard to define when I was going through them. I think that to me, the team that could surprise the most people, or honestly, maybe set the expectation straight, is UCLA. I think that
Mhm.
they obviously starting 2-0 in Big Ten is huge. Lost 3 games, right? Lost to Gonzaga. And honestly, didn't look great in the losses. I think a couple of them were by double digit points, right? And
Yeah.
so you would say UCLA of old, right? Nothing since the Juzang days have we seen like UCLA or Lonzo Ball days since have you seen UCLA be like a 1 seed preseason. But I think that this year, if I had to bet on a team to go unseat the top of the Big Ten, to go unseat like Purdue, it would be UCLA. And I think Mick Cronin obviously is a coach that I would bet on. He's got obviously a very talented roster once again. Um, I think that the fact that again, like the Big Ten has this West Coast, East Coast, right, like brand, I think that they can grab a lot of attention and wins from that. I'd say weaker West Coast of the Big Ten, right? They play the Washingtons twice, the Oregons twice, USC's twice, right? I think they can just grab a lot of that win and momentum to head into some of these games that maybe their first couple of years gave them some struggles in the Big Ten. Obviously, like I said, going to Mackey, not easy for
Mhm.
anybody. But now
Yeah.
that they've done it for 2, 3 years, I think that they can, kind of outshine those other teams that have to travel a good amount and go get those victories this year. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's a team that people are picking to go to the Sweet 16 Elite Eight just because UCLA has gone to the Final Four under McCrun, just because they have that
Yeah.
under their belt. I'd say they need to show me more. Their losses are much different than Illinois' losses, but I think they're probably my top tier three team if I had to put one
Yeah, they're
or four.
definitely under the radar,
Yeah,
because, like, to start the year, they had a couple losses where you were like, "Huh?" Like, "What's going on?" They lost to
not even competing.
California,
Yep. Hmm.
and I was like, "Okay, is California good?" And apparently Cal's, like, 10-1, so they might be good, I don't
They might
know.
be good.
But,
Yeah.
it was interesting looking at it, and then, like, I was like, "Oh, I remember Donovan Dent went there," right? I said that,
Yes.
like, midway through the year, and, I watched him, and I was like, "This is not the Donovan Dent I remember." Like, he was
Right.
playing, like, really like, I was like, "Whoa," like, this was supposed to be the top transfer in the country. What
Right.
happened, you know? And then these last few games, he's picked it up to a different level. Like, that
Yeah.
Washington game where they were at Washington, he was outstanding to close the game. A guy that's been great for them is Sky Clark. He's been hitting threes at a very high clip.
Hmm. Both
And
of
I
those
mean,
big time transfers.
yeah, both big time transfers. And
Yep.
people forget, like, they were within 4 points against Arizona, like all
Right.
over Arizona. That was a fantastic game.
Hmm.
I rewatched that recently, and I was like, okay, like this is good. And that was still when Dent wasn't playing well. So I was impressed with UCLA too. That they probably would have been my pick as well. They definitely could sneak it and shock
Yeah.
some people.
I think what Mick does is similar to Dusty May, where he knows how he's going to play basketball and he's just going to get talent to do it. And
Yeah,
sometimes the talent takes a little bit to adjust, right? They're not going to lean on senior play as much as they are transfer play or freshman play as much as they are transfer play, right? They got Xavier Booker from MSU as well. Like these are all once 4 or 5 star kids that might not have panned out that he's bringing in to run his offense. And there's some type of magic to that when you're bringing in the most talented high schoolers who may have had a tougher slate or just went unrecognized like Donovan Dent and now get a chance to do it on the biggest stage. So underperforming, agreed. I think their ceiling is highest for the tier 4, tier 3 teams.
like it, like it. If I had to pick one team, it'd probably be Iowa.
Okay.
Iowa has been pretty good throughout the year. They didn't have too much of an out of conference slate. Their only big time win was Xavier, and Xavier just lost to Creighton by like 50 yesterday. So I
Yeah.
don't know if that's a big time win. I have a lot of Xavier buddies that are pretty upset about that. But if we're looking at Iowa this year, Bennett Sturts is the guy. They
Yeah.
brought in all the Drake guys, Ben McCollum, their coach, and like Sturts has been good. I am a little worried because deep watched that Michigan State game, and they completely took Sturts out of that game. Like, it was
Yeah.
unbelievable. I had to sign into your Peacock account to watch that, and I was like, "Why did I sign into Peacock when Bennett Sturts is going to play like that?" And the more and more I like, if I'm evaluating like NBA draft thing, like he struggles to get by guys that are more athletic than him. He struggles to get those paint touches.
Hmm.
And that's one thing that kind of makes you nervous, like,
Yep.
could he become like a star in an NBA terms? And if you can't have a burst and get past people, it's very dangerous looking at NBA wise. So, I mean, he's still clearly like a top 15 guy because he can shoot it, he can do all
Yeah.
the things, and he's an unbelievable college player. Like, don't get me wrong, but that does concern me. Like, I don't know if he's like Knipple or anything, how good Knipple's been playing,
Yeah.
that's main concern draft wise. But if we're looking at Iowa, they got the Horizon League Player of the Year from last year, Fulgaris. Solid role player for them. I've never loved his game, partly because he was at Robert Morris. And then if we're looking at other guys, they have guys that just fit together. They
Yeah.
play really well together. I think they'll be a middle of the pack Big Ten team. I feel like they're just the only other team that kind of stands out to me, but in that tier. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would put them in the same intrigue level as Indiana for me because
Yeah,
both with new head
that's who I
coaches
was picking with. Yeah.
that were on my like maybe best acquisitions from the coaching carousel.
Talk
And
about
it's not
another Drake legend. The two
talk
Drake
about
the Drake coaches, Tucker DeVries and Bennett
clearly
Sturts, man.
you're seeing my exactly what I'm thinking there. But I do think they're different style coaches, which is interesting. I think that McCollum at Iowa is going to need a couple years to build what he has, which is what
Okay.
Iowa does, right?
Yeah.
McCaffrey had a program, right? He didn't have this is my all in year. He had like a
Yeah.
window. And you're going to need maybe, as much as I love Sturts, you're going to need a couple years probably for him to build that. Because he was only at Drake for 1 year. It's not like he's bringing a ton of,
Yeah.
right, people with him. So versus, I would say DeVries, he's got guys that can win now. He transferred in guys that can win now. He'll probably do that again if they don't win now, right? Like
Mhm.
Indiana's just a little bit different. And it's very interesting watching him because he's definitely under the microscope more with how he left West Virginia, right?
Yeah.
People were
Yeah.
very unhappy with him for leaving the way he did, which is funny because Drake's coach did the same thing with
Yeah.
Drake and left
Exactly.
after a year, right? But
Exactly.
at West Virginia, it means maybe a little bit more when you put a lot into this guy for a 4 year contract and he leaves after the first year, right? So I think maybe the pressure is on Indiana a little bit more and DeVries. So I'm interested to see how he does. He's got great talent. They've, again, similar to these teams we talked about, lost some bad games, but haven't lost many of them. So we'll see if they can pick it up. I like Lamar Wilkerson's play. Like Indiana will be fine, but I do like you putting Iowa over them slightly right now. I think maybe it could be pressure related for coaching, but we'll see maybe
Yeah.
who comes up.
I like it. I like it. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll get to the other four conferences, just talk brief takeaways from that. And then we'll talk about some teams to look out for when March comes. All right. Welcome back into the show. And we're going to move into the Power Five if we include the Big East. So let's talk about just the other conferences. We really centered on Big Ten. I wanted to be a Big Ten show. So we picked a couple teams from any conference you want besides the Big Ten. So Asher, I'm going to start with you. What team intrigues you the most throughout this season as we're about like a month and a half into the season?
Yeah, I think that the other conferences definitely are intriguing this year about who's going to be like kind of the top heavy favorite. I think Michigan already surprised a lot of people in the Big Ten. So like who's going to be that? For me, one conference that I often look to for like this is where the champions coming out of is the Big 12 because I feel like they're often loaded, and they added
Hmm.
some great schools. But for me, BYU is the team that not only surprised me the most, but I was like the highest on, and they still surprised me because
Yeah.
I've been talking about this AJ. You can say his last name if you want to.
Dubanza?
So, yeah, perfect. Just as it's your podcast, but I've been talking about AJ since he was, I think, a sophomore or junior in high school because he
Yeah.
was playing at the elite level then, and his commitment to BYU shocked people. He's showing you right now why he did it. He's a
Mhm.
perfect fit for their culture. He's a perfect fit with their coach. He's averaging 21 points as an 18-year-old, young 18-year-old freshman. He's obviously has NBA talent. There's no doubt that in certain instances, I could see him being, in the G League right now and developing certain NBA. But what he showed me is that BYU recruited him the right way, right? They obviously had the money to back it, but they came after him because they were building something around his skill set, and you're seeing it now, right? Obviously, just going down the roster, Richie Saunders, Robert Wright, Kiba Keats is one of my favorite players
Yeah.
in college basketball, right? He's
He
just
is fun.
it looks like a Kentucky team, right? That
Mhm.
BYU has on roster, and they're playing. Credit to them, an Oakland schedule. They are beating the best teams. They are going to every single conference and playing their best team and beating them, right? Even in the Jimmy V Classic, when they were down 20 points to Clemson, right? A five
Yep.
seed in the last two tournaments. They come all the way back and hit a game winning buzzer beater. I was like standing up in my living room in like a December, November game. Like I couldn't believe what I just saw, right? Just like the fact that they're playing as a team with a bunch of guys who do not know each other, the fact that they're playing like this has me so excited. Obviously, you're going to need some bench and secondary players to develop because you have the top three guys averaging more than 16 points a game, right? And that's a good recipe to win in March, but it's not going to hold in the Big 12, right?
Yeah.
You're going to need certain guys, probably Keita, to start scoring double digit points, right? Or else you're
Mhm.
going to get stuck in some games where one foul trouble gets you out of it. But they're clearly moving around that now, right? And how are they doing that? They're a great defensive team, right? They have length. AJ alone has length to get steals and rebounds, right? But now their whole team is buying into it. Richie Saunders is controlling the game, right? He's taking the pressure off of the young freshman to go win it. Obviously, I think that the way that they recruited internationally is nice too. I would love to see some more production from guys like Kostic and Diamande and Boscovich, like guys that you see at Illinois making media impact, maybe aren't right now at BYU. But what they did last year with their point guard, right, sending him to the NBA, you can clearly see that they're getting a talent pool from overseas as well, which might be the key to winning in the modern college basketball landscape. So I think that I was excited about them last year, but I was always looking at this year as when BYU finally gets into form. And the fact that the freshman has delivered so far in terms of just statistics, I'm excited to see what he does in the biggest games going forward in the Big 12.
Yeah. Dude, Debanza came in and I was like, okay, this guy's clearly number one. You know, he's starting out number one on my board. And then there were questions like he had a couple
For sure.
games where you were like, like what's going on here? And especially like that UConn game, he comes out and UConn locks him up like
Yep.
completely and to start the first half. And you're like, okay, how is he going to respond? He responds with 25 points in the second half and looks like the best player and he's doing pro moves. Like it's just pro moves. Like it looks
Yeah.
like Kawhi Leonard in the post. And you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's a stud, you know? Now there are like a couple defensive concerns.
For sure.
I really like his intangibles. I like everything that he could be defensively. And I feel like you
Agreed.
can coach that. He's clearly just a young guy trying to figure it out. But he's like to me clear number one. You can't not do it because he's got the intangibles, he's got the scoring ability, he can do all that stuff.
Yes.
You talked about the other players. Richie Saunders, fantastic shooter, has been there a long time. He's their leader.
Hmm.
He's fantastic. He had a couple games where he just hit like 7 threes. And when it's like that, you're not losing those games, you know?
Yeah, no chance.
And then Rob Wright. Like Rob Wright's just a guy that controls the game. You know, he's always in control. It was like I was watching that UConn game, and Wright played a fantastic game throughout the whole game, and BYU makes a comeback, and then they have a possession near the end of the game, and Wright goes into trying to get like a handoff and he slips and falls and turns the
Yeah,
ball over. And I'm like, oh, like he never does this, like never. And that this is how they're going to lose the game, you know? But he's a
totally.
fantastic point guard. I love the stuff that he can do. And then you talk about Keita, the energy. Oh my gosh, it's unreal.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, they've been fantastic. I think they're clearly one of the best teams. Their only loss being to UConn, and I mean UConn's no slouch, man. Number 5 in the country, awesome. So I love BYU. Do you think they have a legitimate chance to win the Big 12?
I do. I think that they have more depth than they've shown. I think that their scoring will dissipate. Again, same thing. I feel like Bansa, AJ looks super raw still, and yet he's putting up 21 a game. You know, it's more
Yeah.
that for me, where it's like you said, the intangibles are there, and even though you might draft him 3 overall because he's not ready to take on a scoring load next year in the NBA, but like by the time he's 3 years into the NBA, like he's going to be one of the most well-rounded players, right? So it's like, can you get him there in 1 year at BYU? I'm not sure, but I do think the rest of their roster will come up to support his scoring, and then he can
Mhm.
just play basketball. So I like them to win the Big 12 this year. I think a lot of teams are, while great, down one step, and BYU's up one step. So that's why I
I
would
like it.
put them there. And yeah, obviously, Iowa State and Houston are probably going to run away with it, and then I'm going to have nothing to talk about. But like, I do think that BYU might have an advantage over them offensively that I do like.
Yeah, so I was gonna go with like a middle of the pack Big 12 team. And I kept looking at the Big 12 and I'm like, holy cow, this conference is so stacked. I want to talk
Yeah,
about like everybody. I want to talk about Houston. We played Houston early
that's
this
right.
season and they were number one in the country. and holy cow, they are big. Like it is crazy. Chris Senack, he had a lot of high expectations coming in as a freshman. He's played solid. He's not a
Yep.
bad player. I'd like him to stop settling for mid-range shots, but he's a stud. He's a stud. He can definitely play. The surprise for Houston that nobody saw coming is Kingston Flemings. He
Yes.
is an absolute like star, and like it's capital S star. I mean, it's ridiculous some of the shots he pulls off. Like I was watching the Auburn game, and it was back and forth throughout the whole game. Whenever you needed a big shot, he was hitting it every single time. And then I watched their game against Tennessee, and I was focused on Nate Ahmed because I was watching his film. And then I just see Flemings hit like so many threes to keep them in this game, and I'm like, this isn't even his game. Like, what is he? This is crazy. With the comparison I saw for Flemings, that I mean, I don't normally love comparisons, but I thought this one was spot on. Was Derrick Rose? He's just so athletic, so fast, can get by you. His jumper's a little bit of a question mark, but I think it's going to work. And he's just got so much touch around the rim. Like it's very impressive. And I think he was a surprise for a lot of people because he wasn't like high on boards or anything like that. But coming out of Houston, like everything you heard with their practices and stuff, that was like Flemings is legit. Like he is that guy. And then you're looking at Emmanuel Sharp still there from that team that lost in the championship game. Joseph Tugler still there. Milos Uzan still there. These are all guys that are considered NBA draft prospects. Like the first day I was doing my prospect board, I was like, "Oh, how many guys are on Houston? 6? Whoa, that's a lot of people to put on a board." Uh, and like, I mean, I didn't even get to Isaiah Harwell, who's a stud off their bench. Like, they got so many guys that can really compete. The thing with Houston is always going to be shooting, but they got two shooters that can make plays. Like if Kingston Flemings isn't able to get a shot off, Milos Uzan is great off the screen and roll, can make stuff happen. Um, if you leave Emmanuel Sharp for a second, it's going up. It is in, you know? And I'm talking about offense. Their defense is the most physical defense in the country. They trap everybody. Joseph Tugler was a defensive player of the year last year. They have guys all over the place defensively, and it's still one of the most scary things ever. When our schedule came out and we had all those teams that are ridiculous, and we played two number one teams back to back. The team I was most scared of was Houston. Like they were terrifying, and it's because of the athleticism, all of the stuff that they have on display. It's just flat out unbelievable. It's like you're getting into a war with them. Um, the fact that they have one loss to Tennessee, that actually makes sense because Tennessee has the length and the physicality. It brings the defensive toughness. They do the same things as Houston. So it's going to be okay. Who scores more? And Gillespie had a better night than Flemings. That's just what happens, you know. I'm not worried about Houston. I think they're going to be awesome. I think the three teams in the Big 12 to put at the top are Houston, Arizona, and then BYU. So I love what you
Yeah.
were talking about there.
No, I fully agree. I had the same just anticipation looking at the games that I have seen them play this year. Oakland,
I didn't
obviously being
even
one, but
mention
then
Iowa State. Iowa State's in there too. Sorry.
all
Go
right,
ahead.
perfect. Yeah, and one more. Make sure it's on the record that we got one more.
I had to make sure.
No, that's correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like the way they beat, you know, to me, games I saw in person, the way they beat Syracuse, Notre Dame, Florida State, all
Yep.
games they should have won, right? Favored to win. But I
Mhm.
do think the way that they won, those teams really weren't in the game.
Yeah.
They may have thought they had a chance, but the way that Houston, with those guards that have been in the NCAA final, control the game, and with the bigs that are doing, I think, above what people expect them to do, um, I think that they are controlling. They're playing Houston basketball, which will it be enough this year and the talent they have? I'm not sure. They were loaded last year. I don't know if they'll be able to repeat it. But when you do have guys that have done it before, I think it puts you in that ballpark. So I fully agree. I'm very interested to see their next game. It's against Arkansas.
Yeah.
And
Big
to
one.
me, the matchup you saw with the two Derrick Roses of the world, with A Cup and with Houston's guard going
Yep.
at it, I think we're going to learn a lot about how he can handle, his new spotlight, right? Of
Yep.
being a point guard on Houston that's going to be needed to make some big time shots. So very excited for that game. Think it'll be super fun. But I agree with you, Houston. I'd put them. four teams in the top tier, I'd say Houston and BYU, I'd give the nod to. So excellent
Love it.
point.
Love it. You got one more. So who do you have?
Yeah, I think that we could talk about the Big 12 forever. I think that the Big East and SEC are probably a little bit down this year, and come back to me in February when they're not. But like I think last year we focused a lot on the SEC,
Yep.
and they're
Yep.
down this year, and focused a lot on the Big East. Same thing. Maybe UConn's maybe make proving that they're number one. But to me, the team that did not take a step back where I thought they would is Duke. I
Okay.
think that Duke is someone that went all in last year and then reloaded, which is super rare in today's college basketball. Because if you lose
Mhm.
that many people, the amount of energy you have to take into building a roster that works is going to be so varied by the talent that is available that year, right? And what I mean by that is this team was supposed to have Cooper Flag, right?
Yeah.
He
Yep.
reclassified 1 year. Like we're seeing what Boozer is doing now. Imagine Boozer and Flag together on this team. Flag, who's the
Holy
same person who
cow.
just put up 42 for the Mavs, is supposed to
Yep.
be in college right now, right? So last year they went all in, and this year I'm like, okay, I love Boozer's play style, but I don't know if he can carry a team the way Flag did, right?
Yeah.
He's a big man that moves like a big man, right? Can he shoot? Yes, right? Can he pass better than most bigs? Yes. But does he have the team around him to do what he can? And he's absolutely answered that with a yes, right? I think that he has been outstanding in terms of freshman college play
Mhm.
compared to the other freshmen on the big board. I think the other freshmen may have more of the raw things that NBA teams are looking for, and you can, obviously correct me there with who you have on your big board.
Mhm.
But Boozer looks like a senior in college, right? Compared
Yes.
to these other guys that look like they just came off of the courts in high school. Boozer looks like he's been doing it for a while, right? He's averaging the most points of anyone in college basketball, right? He's passing out of double teams better than most people
Mhm.
are. They went into Michigan State with 4 fouls, played a zone for 6 minutes, and took over the game, right? Like that's
Yep.
something that you don't see from an 18-year-old, I think, anywhere else in the country, right? You might see big moments, you might see good talent, but you're seeing a guy that can absolutely win basketball games for his university, just like Flag did, right? So Duke absolutely reloaded, and I think they're only going to get better. I really like Sar.
Yep.
I think he plays a little bit of one and two, but I really
Mhm.
like Sar. I think he'll shoot a lot better once he gets more Cameron indoor reps. Duke's struggle is going to be the same thing it was last year, where the ACC isn't as talented, right? And it's
Yeah.
not their fault, but they may not face as good of a team, right? That they did at the beginning of the season with scheduling a Michigan State and a Kentucky, right? And are not again the Kansas, right? They may
Yep.
not see that type of talent, but then you have Caleb Wilson at UNC, right? Who's absolutely going to give them a great look at what the top tier in the NCAA looks like. And
Yep.
then to Duke's credit, you have Michigan on February 23rd, right? If
Yeah.
you want to test right in the middle of your ACC schedule, it's sitting there for you, right? The best team in the country is flying
Mhm.
to Washington, D.C. to play you on a neutral site. Many
Yep.
are going to call that a Final Four preview, right?
Mhm.
So I think that while they, definitely are going to not look the part of last year's team, they have everything they need to get back to that spot and win that game with this team. I think that Boozer's awesome. I love their center, Ngamba. I think he's,
Yeah.
again, like a Akita type, like super energetic, right? Caleb Foster, obviously, a guy that they're going to lean on a ton this year. But to me, it's can Dame Sar, can Caden Boozer step up and start making some big time shots to help alleviate the amount of times that Cam Boozer is going to be double team posting up
Yep.
because you got to send everybody at him. It's going to be that all season long. Can they help create a team environment that gets them healthy and ready in March? We'll see. But I think what they did at Michigan State shows me a lot for how they can win games in like a tournament style play.
Yeah. I mean, like another game where they did the same thing was the Florida game. When Florida came with them, came to them and punched him in the mouth. Boogie Fland hit that big three, and you
Yeah,
were like, "Whoa, they're gonna blow this game." And then Isaiah Evans gets open, hits the three. He's got so much shooting potential.
he does.
Yeah, like it's really impressive. What he can do for them. I love what you're saying about Boozer. Um, the passing is something I think that surprised everybody. Like his processing is very fast, and he's able to do a lot of things at a really high level. Like he court maps really well. He sees the doubles. He's able to get the ball out. Ningamba is a stud. Really, like,
But
he just so much energy, so much energy. It's really fun to watch, and especially that Florida game. Like,
yeah,
holy cow, he played unbelievable in that game. And Duke's got two bigs that can go against like anybody, you know,
that's right.
and that's what I was impressed by when they went to Michigan State. They were able to go at those Michigan State bigs and do their job, you know, which was really impressive there. If I'm looking at Duke, ACCs, you're probably looking at Louisville, North Carolina, Virginia. Those are probably the main teams that you would be concerned about at all. I'm excited to see them against Louisville, a team that shoots a lot of threes. Ryan Conwell is someone I love at Louisville, and that's been a stud throughout the whole year. And then, of course, Michael Brown, who's on
Of course.
top of boards. Hopefully, he's healthy soon. That injury, I was looking forward to seeing him against Tennessee, but whatever.
Yeah.
Game back to Duke. Game back to Duke. You mentioned Dame Sarr. I love him, dude. He just plays so hard, you know.
Yep.
And there's a lot of wings where you're like, okay, you know, like he's got all the talent in the world, but why is he not moving that fast? Like the
Right.
motor just doesn't seem there. The motor is there with Sarr, you know. Like your concern is, okay, he's not shooting the ball that great. There's moments on offense where he gets lost in it, but defensively, he's digging in, rebounding. He's all over the place. I really like what he brings for their team. Ngamba's the same way. And then Caleb Foster, you know, really
Yep.
helping them out, steady point guard for them. So I'm looking forward to Duke. I think Isaiah Evans is a big key for them. Like if he can continue shooting the ball as well as he has, and also be able to stay on the court defensively because I don't think he's the greatest defender in the world. That'll really help them, you know.
Yeah.
Especially like you got a lot of help inside. So like if you're Evans, if you get beat off the dribble, it's not the end of the world, but like you need to be able to stay on the court. You know, you can't get
Yeah.
destroyed. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to seeing from Duke. But they got so many guys this year that it's going to be fun. That Michigan game, man, whew, that'll be a blast.
It's gonna be a great one. Yeah. No, I agree. I think there's no way, Boozer's gonna take him all the way by himself. But the fact that he's playing this well early while other freshmen are still finding their footing, it's gonna allow them, like a Dame Sarr, who could be the top recruit on an LSU right now and
Yeah.
trying to do it all himself. Instead, he's got a guy that he can maybe lean on to help get in the flow of the game and like develop some type of offensive rhythm that's not like him getting double teamed, right? So very excited to see what they do. Think we won't be talking about a lot during the year, and that's a good thing because they'll be winning, But once it comes to
Mhm.
the end of the year, that Michigan game, the ACC tournament, they're definitely going to be like in everyone's mind.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that'll be some exciting stuff. I want to move into a mid-major spotlight. Last week we went to Northern Iowa. And boy, they're a good team. They're a really, really good team. I was looking at the mid-major top 25, and they're sitting
Yeah.
right at 10. And they got two losses on the year, but they've been outstanding throughout the whole year. There's not really one guy that stands out. They're a very, very good defensive team. If you had to pick one guy, it's Leon Bond the third. He leads them in scoring, but they're very much a by committee team, which is really interesting to me. They muddy up the game, they make it physical, they make it tough. And we're playing a lot faster than we normally play. They were able to
Hmm.
slow it down to a pace that fits them. They're one of the slower teams in the country. So I feel like there's just so much there where it's like, hmm, it kind of reminds me of our team 2 years ago. And it's because they have shooters and they have a specific style. We played slow and we leaned on our zone defense and we had shooters that year. They play slow. They have a really good defense that's physical, that's tough, that gets you off your game. And they have some shooters that can shoot the lights out. Against us, they didn't shoot it great. It was a really muddy game. They were able to win the game by 10 against us. We didn't play good at all. Like they really muddied it up for our offense, which has flowed against probably every other team except Houston throughout the year. And that's what made me so impressed. Like they really muddied up the game for us, and I think if their shooters get hot, like they could be a team that scares teams in March. So that would be my
Yeah.
team to watch out for
What do you think
later.
they have to do to become greater than a first round upset only team? Like how does this team turn into a Sweet 16 team? 'Cause I've got a couple guys on this team that I'm intrigued by in terms of I want my team to poach them next year. But
Yeah.
I don't know if they've necessarily shown individual statistics. They played a team style of basketball. So what do you, like you said, that can get them that Oakland one round, maybe even the second if that NC State game changes, right, a couple of
Yeah.
possessions. But what do they need to do to become a Sweet 16 team? Being that they're probably going to come out of their conference and be a good seed.
Yeah, Missouri Valley's tough,
Hmm.
like it's always a tough league to get out of, so it's going to be interesting to see like if they actually get out of it and how things roll there. Their losses were to Tulsa and Wichita State, who are
Yep.
two solid mid majors. Tulsa, I think, was 5 on the mid major
Are
board,
they
and
both American schools, like
um,
big mid major
s-
conference, right?
yeah, so Tulsa's American, and then Northern Iowa's Missouri Valley.
Right.
So
Yeah, and
yeah,
then Wichita State was that
I
they're not in the same conference,
I
obviously,
do
right?
not think they're in the same
No, no,
conference.
that was
No.
just like an out of conference game.
Yeah,
Okay,
just an out of conference
so they're
game.
worried about Drake. They're worried
So
about the
yeah,
other. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they're
Okay.
Drake's conference, and Drake's been owning that for a while. But it seems like they're down a little bit where from where they were. But like looking at it, I would say they just got to get their shooters involved. Like
Yeah,
I feel like they would have killed us if they were shooting the ball well.
yeah.
But we did a great job at like closing that and actually stopping them there. It was probably one of our better defensive performances because we
Hmm.
turned them over. We were able to get stops there. And they're a team that doesn't turn the ball over. They're really, really
Right.
good at turning it over. So they're one of those conservative teams. So I would say like you're not worried about your defense. You're not worried about turning the ball over. What the only thing would be is getting those shooters the right things. And the person that I think would be the Jack Golke would be Kyle Pock, number 22, because he can shoot it from deep and he's big. He's 6'9". So he's the type of guy where it's like, okay, if he gets hot, then it's probably a different game. I believe he was like 2 for 8 from 3 against us. Maybe
Gotcha.
only hit one. Like he didn't do much. But like they bring in a bench unit where they play completely different than their starters.
Hmm.
They were running completely different sets once they brought in that bench unit. And I think it's really interesting. They just got a lot of guys that can kind of come in and muddy the game up. I don't know if they have the talent to become a Sweet 16 team. It's hard now because like you're looking at these mid majors and the talent differential, like if I'm comparing Northern Iowa, oh, you're going to play Louisville tomorrow. Like that's just a big ask for me because it's like, okay, you could see Louisville on a off shooting night, maybe win that game. And then your next game, you play Texas Tech, who always plays good offense. How are you going to stop JT Toppin down low? Christian Anderson's unbelievable point guard there. It's like, I feel like winning 2 games is a big ask here.
Yeah.
Um, but if I could definitely see him hit doing 1 game, like
Yep.
100%.
Yeah, I think this next game they have at St. Mary's is big because that's the other
Yeah.
slow team in mid-major
Mhm.
basketball, right? It's like you're going to play the master. Like who's going to win that battle of controlling the pace and
Yep.
making shots, right? It's going to be a very slow game, not a lot of layups. So it's like who's going to come out there. So if they can get through that one, that would obviously be huge for their outlook on the season. If not, like you said, someone's got to step up and be able to shoot the three ball.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. For sure. Um, yeah, I think that's a show, man. We went another hour. We went another hour. Yeah.
Okay, I could do another hour. Let's run it back. What we got?
That's awesome.
No,
That's
it's been
awesome.
great, man. Thank you. Yeah,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
super excited about this season, but I don't know. I feel like we have more contenders for a national title than we have in years past. I think that's a
Yeah.
good thing for the sport. I think it's because the talent dissipates with NIL. Unfortunately,
Mhm.
that might take away from mid majors, but it also spreads to teams like a Virginia Tech we spoke about off
Yep.
camera, like having an NBA prospect, a Washington having
Yep.
a top NBA lottery pick on the team. Like you're going to see a lot more teams come out of nowhere, and I'm really excited to see like how that pool of 12 to 15 real contending teams deals with that tough schedule playing teams like that night in night out. So it's going to be a great year. Super excited, but also ready to like just get in and already make a bracket. I could do it
Yeah,
today.
I know. I know. Those Power 5 games, like, we're really centered on the Power 5, and I'm just so excited to see these guys, like, centering in on the Big Ten like that. Like, I'm so excited to see Purdue go up against Michigan. Like, how does the defensive rebounding problem fix itself? You know, like how does Michigan State counteract Michigan's bigs? You know, like there's so many interesting questions that we still have because we've seen basketball. That's why like it's almost more fun to do a preview once we've seen it compared to like just
For
trying to
sure.
figure out if these
Definitely.
freshmen will actually be good. Like I don't know, you know? So yeah, some exciting stuff. But Asher, I really appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. Excited to watch some more basketball together and hopefully get back on the pod and talk about who's winning, who's losing, and who we got winning it all. So
Yes,
yeah, I
sir.
appreciate you having me on, man.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, that is going to wrap up Jake's takes for today. Thank you guys so much for listening, watching, wherever you're at. And I will be back at you guys soon. Peace.